Soon?
Yeah, don't make me talk too much because my voice is still a bit rough.
We're live. Welcome to Tea with Tom.
Hey,
Tom
everyone.
is obviously he's the mastermind behind the Reasonable Wealth programs, and Tom actually, is also a father and a father to be. And in more of a metaphysical sense, he's also a father of a lot of our birthings in terms of like this new realm that we are experiencing. And this is Mark, and welcome to the show, Tea With. Tea With is a show in which I have a nice conversation with people that are on the show. And Tom's voice is kind of like in the midst of refresh.
Yeah,
So I'm going to just basically do like some talking over here,
good.
and then I'm going to ask some questions of Tom, and I'm going to bring out some things about things that I'm finding out over here, and one thing that I would like to bring up here is the fact that um, an affirmation that came up, and this affirmation is pretty interesting. It says, I am cool, calm, and serene, yet fully in touch with my feminine power. And I clearly communicate my wisdom and my desires. So, Tom, how does that relate to yourself?
Yeah, that's that's interesting. We were just talking in the pre-roll before we went live, and just saying how if all humans who are in a position of power were more in touch with their feminine side, or if there were more women in positions of power directly, then we would be able to bring greater life to all sooner rather than later, because women find it much easier to get to the creative plane because they are the ones that create. They create life, and they also are much more nurturing and sharing. And men tend to naturally be much more competitive. So it's interesting that just as my wife in the other room is having contractions at the early stages of labor, she was due yesterday, the 13th of May, and we're expecting it to come the next day or two. We thought it was going to be yesterday, actually. Had contractions for a few hours. We're all getting a bit excited, but then at about 2:30, kind of all died down, so we all went to bed. Um, and it's interesting that well, to be honest, Mark, you asked me for a color. I chose a color, and it turned out that the crystal associated with that color is very important or very helpful for women in the stages of pregnancy and after birth as well, which is interesting. What are the chances of that happening, eh?
It's, well, there's no coincidence over here. One thing I'm learning, and from being in this program, is that when you're connected to source, and source is something that can be whatever you think it to be. Source to me is a power greater than myself. It's like my inner truth. It's source to me is love. So when I'm connected with love, I'm feeling, a greater sense of who I am, and I'm able to connect better with people around me.
Mm.
And with and bringing things along, you know, the way in which this program, this 13 by 4 they're on right now, is pretty remarkable. How when I look at different things that you are having us focus on, how it actually is determining how, like, my particular week is going.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I guess that's kind of like the goal of everything.
Mm.
And I remember a few weeks ago, my weeks were different than they are now. and I'm in the car and I'm driving, back home from work, and you know, my script is kind of like, you know, making me feel a certain way. You know, well, Mark, did you do all you could do today? Right? Did you
Yeah.
put everything into your work today? Did you work hard enough today? So it's sort of like this, kind of like a an inventory that was coming from a place, but I could tell what the feeling was. And I remember you had, alluded to something. I'm not sure if it's in the recording. I mean, in the Udemy course or whatever, about the car. Someone
Yeah.
very wealthy, right? So in my life, I'm looking at myself in a different perspective over here. I've
Yeah.
been in my job for a year and almost it'll be 2 years in August. So I entered this year, 2014, with a good head count with consultants. And one thing that's been happening is I'm having a lot of attrition, based upon like people getting hired or whatever. So I'm having all the attrition. I'm putting people back on, people coming off, and just, I'm not getting ahead. Then I look, and I'm like, part of me says, where was I last year at this time? Last year I'm building, you know. This year I feel like I'm coming down to where I was. But then I'm like, wait a minute, that's like I'm right where I was last year, right? And last year I was grateful. This year, well, I am grateful. But my script is telling me, wait a minute, you should be here. You should be there. But the
Yeah.
thing is that I'm right where I was last year. Last year I had an attitude that gave me more. In fact, like from this point on last year, things really took off. So, I'm just had to be in the right frame of mind, and my script is letting me really, beat me up about it. And I'm thinking about like, about this whole entire thing, you know, and and then, a lot of things come up with this week. And the biggest thing that was coming out to me was got to get to. And I'm walking around the office, saying, got to get to. And then I go to the president of my company, and, like, I call him Captain Awesome. So I go to the president of my company, and I was like, so I got a new mind shift over here. He goes, what? He goes, tell me about it. He goes, I love mind shifts. I was like, well, what about got to get to? And he's like, I got to think about that for a little bit. And I was like, well, I get up in the morning. I'm like, well, I got to go to work. Oh, oh, I got it. You get to go to work. I was like, that's it. But it's such a shift.
Yeah.
Like, and I was like, well, I'm playing around with it. Like I wrote last night. Well, I got bills to pay, and he said, well, at least you get to pay the bills.
Yeah.
But it's such a shift upon what like our script is saying, and what leads me to something is that, let me ask you a question about about self nurturance and self respect, and how do those components relate to you in terms of like your life.
Okay. So what's the actual question? If you had to ask it as an actual question, what would you say?
Well, how does nurturance and self-respect relate to you in your life?
Okay, that is a good question. I'm gonna have to think about that because I think I was. It's funny. I had a download today, and about how the most important thing you can do, and it was quite interesting because this week's focus is efficient action, and we're thinking about more than filling your current place. And I was thinking that really, probably the best thing that you can do, that you can always do, is love yourself. And I was thinking how important that is because if you don't really love, love is the greatest power, without a shadow of doubt. Love is, in terms of what you actually do, if you can love, if you genuinely get good at loving, if everyone just loved maybe 10% more, That'd be awesome. You know, how cool would that be? Just even 5% more if we all just loved a little bit. But there's absolutely no ceiling to how much you could love. Any of us could love. So it's almost you've got an infinite opportunity. It's talk about a ground floor opportunity, you know, to love. And the thing that the problem with is that the script is really, really good at getting you to love other people more than you love yourself. It's really interesting. Most of the time you talk to people and they want me to love them more than they love themselves. That's never going to happen. So this idea of self-nurture is really important. I'm a big fan of myself. I really am. I am my number one cheerleader, and my number two cheerleader is my wife, who's awesome. But I know that ultimately I'm the only person in the world who never gets to leave me, who will never, you know, who you could say who has got to be with me the whole of my life. No, I'm the only person who gets to be with me the whole of my life. So I guess I ought to really appreciate that. And if I don't love myself, and if I aren't nurturing myself, then I won't be able to give anything to other people. And a lot of people try to kind of change the world and help other people and love other people before they've even started looking at loving themselves. And it's not their fault, it's just the script. Because if you ask them if they would you choose to love other people more than you love yourself? No, hell no. Why would they choose that? They'd never choose that. So it always comes back to what would you choose? It always comes back to noticing the script. But once you've already noticed, the single most effective thing you can do as an action really is to love, I think. So yeah, it's quite important, Mark. You could say that.
Also, one thing I'm also picking up over here as it relates to everything we're talking about, but you know, effectively communicating like you know one's emotions and boundaries, and you know also we just said respect, love, and nurture oneself, so one can have inner resources to give these gifts to others.
Yeah,
And
that's
that
it.
is what we're talking about, but greater life for all,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Greater life for all starts with self-love.
It has
Because
to.
how are you going to be greater life for all if you don't have self-love and nurturing? And it's so amazing you picked this stone. And
Yeah.
and this says basically that you know getting rid of you know resentment and egoic judgment and also you know um, you know listen to this. Larimar is an important stone at this time as humanity moves from ego-centered culture to new consciousness and awareness.
Huh.
Larimar can help those who continue to complain that things are not as they should be to become present and learn to what love is. That's pretty awesome, right? Because isn't this what we're talking about? You
Yeah.
know, this week. You know, it's like I shared how one of my colleagues plays a consultant and she's going to work. She's there not even a week and a half, and then she's complaining the commute's too far. And this company has a very good culture, and they don't want negativity in the office. They said, "See you later."
Yeah.
Is that making the best out of your work environment? Is
Not
that
so much.
showing the got to, or the got to, right?
Yeah.
Is
Yeah.
that making your place in the world? And it's saying right here, we're having a shift, right? We're having a shift in consciousness, looks like, in which people are getting out of this ego-centered mind, which is all about themselves, and they're going to something that's more loving and compassion and helping others. And you know, I asked you about like feminine energy and goddess energies and stuff like that. And what about like, I know that you don't want to talk too much, but what about, you know, I know you have a birth coming,
Yeah.
and can you explain like the emotional feelings associated with birth and
Uh,
as being a father?
no, not at all. I can't explain that at all. It just it's 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 a totally mystifying thing to me. It really is. I mean, a lot of us get really excited about a project we worked on, or maybe a book that we wrote, or a company we set up, or maybe even a house that we built, or a band that we put together, all these things that we created. But there is nothing that humans will ever do that comes close to creating another human life. It's just astonishing. And anyone who's been at a birth, anyone who's been at the birth of any child, but, you know, um, let alone their own child, will agree. It's the most magical feeling. It's the most it's a great example of what it's like to be truly human, that what we're expected to be like. It's almost like a rebooting of the human system. When you get a new birth coming in, it's like, oh yeah, yeah, yeah. This is what it's like to be human, to connect, and everyone's connected. And we experience this at times, when there's things like the Olympics going on, or in New York, I imagine they experienced it post 9/11 when they had that 9/11. I don't know how you call it, whatever. But basically, for a few days after that, everyone in New York was being really nice to each other, and so we get these opportunities. I mean, they are going to be traumatic events. Birth is a traumatic event. There's a lot going on there, but what's really interesting is that we could take that reminder. I mean, you talked about this recently, Mark. That's probably the best opportunity for most humans to experience what heaven on earth will be like when we create it. Is it that same experience that everyone has, that same lightheaded joy, elation that you experience for hours and days after the birth of a child? It's incredible. Words are such poor weapons to explain that feeling. It's ultimately words are great, but feelings are better. And so I think that what we do is we take people to the memory of that feeling, and then say, and this is what it's all about. What you're doing with Tea With, what we're doing together with Creator Life for All, what I'm trying to do with all the things that I'm doing. We're trying to recreate that highest possible state of emotion that man can be in, which is, what Jesus was going on about with heaven on earth, and Buddhists would call enlightenment, and it's there in us instantly, available on tap whenever we want it. There's nothing you have to do. You don't have to go to the top of a mountain and meditate for 10 years. It's right here, right in me, right now, right in you there, Mark. We're doing it. This is it.
This is a greater life for all.
Hmm.
I know that your throat, but is your throat feeling all right? Can you talk a bit more?
It's okay. Yeah, we'll keep going. I'll let you know.
All right. All right. Here's something, because this came up as well, and finding someone's like true pathway, and communication,
Yeah.
and also working with self-imposed blockages and constraints. So here's a scenario.
Yeah.
Okay, Greater Life for All is an opportunity for people to be who they are, right?
Yeah.
To do their self-expression. As we're developing this project, that we're getting more and more input as to what people can do.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that people, is out there that you brought up, and that's in which I'm actually looking to myself. I'm having a meeting with a manager from work next week. Is this Udemy thing?
Yeah.
And from someone that never did a Udemy program, which you never did, right?
Yep.
You did at one point,
Yep.
and you did it, right? You went from an idea
Yep.
to doing it, and obviously someone that has an idea, but but the thing is that it says right here they have self-imposed blockages and constraints. So my question is, when you went to Udemy first and you started your very first program, never did it before.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure you had these self-imposed blockages and constraints, right?
Yeah.
And you probably had a lot of like, well, what kind of course outline do I have?
Yeah.
What do I do, right? Am I going to do audio, or am I going to do video? Am I going to do? You did everything. You did audio, video, and written, all in one thing. So for someone that has an idea, that's listening right now, or whatever, that wants to know a greater life for all, that wants to do your Udemy program, what can you tell them that you did that can help them?
Okay. I'm very lucky in a way that I'm able to just say, oh, what the hell? I've got a scientific perspective where everything is an experiment. I just think, well, I'm just going to try it and see. I don't know if it's going to be right. I used to agonize over things because I'm pretty smart. I did physics at Oxford, which is one of the best schools in the UK, and it's a feature of people that are quite intelligent. They like to know all the data, and they like to, and there's a voice in their head, and we know what it is now. It's the script which says, right, if only I could just get a bit more information, then I'd know exactly what to do. Just a bit more, if I just read another book, or just read another article, or just talk to somebody else, or then I'll know exactly what to do. And I realized that actually agonizing over things, it never gets you to certainty. The only way to go to certainty is through faith. The only way to go to certainty is through choice. You can't get there through information. It's really interesting. Information usually can support it, but it will never actually make it certain. So at some point, even if it's only a small leap, and for some people it's a big leap, but you do have to make an act of faith before you do something, because you never know what's going to happen. So my point of view is this, really simple. If I am going to have to take a leap of faith at some point, I might as well take it sooner rather than later. I might as well do the research. I mean, I came up with this idea of reasonable research, because the whole sort of reasonability thing. So I'm going to do a reasonable amount of research and just trust my gut. And I'm going to have to take a leap of faith, and I don't really know. But one of the things that is really helpful to people is if you tell people, look, start before you're ready. That's exactly the thing to do. Because if you wait until you're ready, you'll never get there. So if you decide that it's okay to start before you're ready, then that'll work. Because if your philosophy is, oh, it's okay to do it now because I'm not ready, and Tom says start before you're ready, great. So it's kind of permission to do it. Because really the script in your head will be saying, yeah, you're just not quite sure. Should you do it like this? You haven't quite got the outline right, or all these sorts of things. So I started before I was ready. I didn't know anything about Udemy. What happened was, it's quite interesting actually, is that the only other courses that were really on there was Mark Zuckerberg, something about Facebook. There was Marissa Mayer, who at the time was working at Google. This is before she became the COO of Yahoo. And there was Eric Ries, kind of a lean startup guy, some fairly big guys on there. And I got my course, higher ranking. I was at number 5, and Mark Zuckerberg was like number 6. It's like,
wow. That's
And
amazing.
what happened? It was just because basically someone from Facebook had thought, well, we'll put this stuff together. We'll call it Mark Zuckerberg. There's a picture of Mark Zuckerberg. So Marissa Mayer's face is on her course. She's down at number 8. Also, Mark Zuckerberg's face is on his course. You know, it's just his employees, it's just people from Facebook as marketing, you know. And there's Tom Cassidy's face on my course. So the fact that I was prepared to do stuff before I was ready meant that I got up there right at the beginning. So and there was virtually nothing else in the lifestyle arena. When I first launched, there was lifestyle, and it had like how to train your dog, one yoga course, and I can't remember what the other one was, but I think it was something to do with I think it was like a formula for dating or something like that. You know, things that people are interested in. So I thought, okay, there's probably a good one. There's probably something to do with, you know, personal development, the way people think. And you know, I didn't even design a course. This is the thing, Mark. I just put some stuff up there, and then I started getting people interested in it, and it wasn't my promotion or anything. And then I thought, oh, I better turn it into a proper course. So the fact that I'm prepared to just do stuff and see what happens, you know, and learn quickly. I guess I know Google follow this philosophy, which is, you know, ship a product as soon as you possibly can. Get, like, I think they call it in software terms, they call it like the minimum viable product, and then iterate as you go, and you realize that whether it's successful or not. And that's what I want to do. I just want to encourage people to start before they're ready, because then they've got this mindset of it's absolutely okay to go with something which isn't perfect. Whereas if you're thinking about being a perfectionist, you'll never have it right. And you know what? The way I see things, you are not the same as the person who went to bed last night isn't the same person who woke up in the morning, because some molecules have come in and some have gone out. Right? You know, it's incredible, really, that we change on a daily basis. So I think of any product we do should be a living thing, and it should be organic, and it should change. We change over time, so the product changes over time. So there's no point waiting until you get it perfect, because the second you press submit or go live, you'll already want to change a little bit of it because you've changed. So I guess summing it up, start before you're ready.
You know, I just want to say, you know, this has been a great talk with our very own Tom, and you know, he's been such a influential person in my life, and it's been really an honor and, you know, a pleasure to have like face contact with you. I mean, you make it so real for a lot of us, and you're actually there for us, and you do so much. You make me, like, you know, want to be a better person, and it comes from with me, from within, inside of me. But for some reason, I connect. I connect with what you're doing here, and I really like it. And you know, we're doing so many great things together, and you know, I really see this thing really becoming something that is going to really be a big benefit to a lot of people. And you know, the one thing that I want to ask you, and you kind of like answered it, but you know, people need to hear it. And so we're going to close the show with this last question, and we're talking about Greater Life for All here and Udemy and everything like that.
Yeah.
And there's somebody here that's listening to this program right now.
Yeah.
Somebody listening to this program right now, this very moment of time. It could be now or it could be later. They have an idea in their head, and the one thing that's going on in the back of their head is, I need more information.
Mm.
I'm not ready. I know you said it, but you know, the script is kind of like, you know, it kind of like plays games with you, you know.
Yeah.
Well, Tom said start before you're ready, but how do I start? I need more information. and then someone's going to keep on going back to needing more information. So, what advice will you give somebody that's in this state of flux right now that wants to do something, that wants to be a part of Greater Life for All, that wants to start your different program, but they're stuck in getting started?
Yeah, that's a great question. The only thing that is going to ever stop you from delivering Greater Life for All for people, and you included, and I'm going to just do an aside on this, because you've said this, Mark. You know, by bringing greater life to ourselves, we bring greater life to all. For we are part of all. And most people who try to do good things get this wrong. They're trying to do greater life for them, greater life for all the poor people that need it, greater life for all the suffering, greater life for all the hungry, and so on. No, it has to be greater life for all, for everybody, including me, including you. So if I'm going to do a lot of work, I have to be part of it. I'm not just doing greater life for me and less life for everybody else. It's greater life for me, greater life for everyone, less to none. So that's really important in this concept. So it's like it is your duty to create greater life for yourself and doing that. So the only thing that will ever stop you from doing that is the voice in your head, which is talking to you all the time and just saying, yeah, that sounds good, but you don't really have an idea that people are going to be interested in. Who's going to listen to you? Come on, what have you got? Well, what have you got to give the world? Come on, you haven't got a story. And this is really interesting. For the first, I met my mentor, my personal mentor, Richard Wilkins, in 2004, so 10 years ago. And for probably about the first 6 years, when he's telling me, yeah, you just go to the source yourself, don't listen to me, just go to the source, I'm going, yeah, but you've got a great story. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, you're right, Richard. Everyone should go to the source. But tell me your story again. I want to listen to your story, because you had the millionaire mansion, you did all this sort of stuff. I don't have a story. And of course you do. Of course you got a story. I had a story, my story, and everyone else who's listening to this, your story is the same story, because it's noticing that inner voice in your head that is telling you stuff that isn't helpful, that you wouldn't choose, that is making you feel bad. That's your story. That's the story that is going to connect you with every other single person in the world, because we all have that. No matter how much money we've got, no matter how handsome we are, or how pretty our wives are, or our partners are, or how loving our children are, or any of these things, we still have a little voice in our head which will prevent us from doing some things that might make us realize our full potential. And even if that full potential is just to do everything exactly the same as you would have done, but to just enjoy it more, to just notice it more, and to just squeeze more out of it. You could do, so many people say this, they get to the end of their life and they think, oh, you know what, I wouldn't wish for my life to be any different. I just wish I could have enjoyed it a bit more as I did it. When these things happen to me, I wish I would have been able to notice and appreciate and be grateful for stuff and have faith that things were going to work out and all that sort of stuff. And it's not about following a particular religion or a particular set of beliefs. It's just the principle of you being able to connect with every other single human on the planet through noticing the inner you, that the real inner you is not a lot of the time what you are actually doing. And that's probably the thing I would say more than anything, Mark. What would you choose? People say, oh yeah, but I just don't, you say start before you're ready, Tom, and I'm with you on that. He said, but I don't know, I'm just really not sure. I said, well, would you choose to not be sure? They went, no, I'd choose to be sure. Okay, so if you're not sure, it's just your script. Great. So what would you do if you were sure? Oh, if I was sure, okay, great, there you go. And just like act as if you are choosing, You know, act as if you are doing what you would choose. You know, and the sausage machine is such a big one. Is, you know, okay, you've noticed it. Now, what are you putting in? Are you putting in patience with yourself? Are you putting in that you're going to give yourself time to go and to grow? Are you putting in that you love yourself? Are you putting in that you deserve everything that's coming to you? You deserve to talk to people. You deserve to get your energy and your version of the same story. The story, and religious organizations will call it the devil, and you know, Freud would have called it something else, no doubt. I don't know, the ego and all these sorts of things. I don't exactly. I'm not into all the psychoanalysis stuff, really. As far as I'm concerned, if it's helpful to you, use it. But for me, it's not helpful at all. I'd much prefer to just say, okay, well, would I choose that? No, okay, right, yeah. But essentially, that your version of the same story of humanity, dealing with the doubt, the despair, the lack of confidence, the uncertainty, the anxiety, the hurry, the haste, the fear, dealing with that is the story of humans. Because if we solve that, right, we've got greater life for all, including greater life for everyone listening. How's that?
Well, Tom, I just want to say it was definitely a pleasure having you on the show. It was an honor to have you on Tea with Tom. And you know what? Greater life for all starts from within, and you're right. And my greater life for all, my contribution to everybody is me.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's my greater life for all. Being who I am and accepting myself for who I am so that I could be my own example of who I am. To show the people that I'm happy with who I am. I'm not perfect, and
Yeah.
the script wants me to think I'm perfect,
Yeah.
but to me, perfection is something that always tries to become better.
Yeah.
It's the script inside of me that wants me to be better, be ready, have all the information that sets me in inertia, and then before you know it, the time passes by, and the time's going to pass by. You might as well just do it.
Yeah.
You know, that's the biggest thing. And why not just practice, make believe, do something? It's just
Dream.
right, dream.
Yeah.
So, greater life for all starts with who you are. And I want to close out to you with, Tom, that you know you got the wife Cindy giving birth imminently, and I really I'm pleased to have you here.
Yeah.
And we look forward to getting some more awesomeness and everything like that. And I'm going to end the broadcast with a good night. And I'm having iced tea. And
Mark, thanks for doing this.
A little toast there, Tom. A little toast to Tom, awesome class, and to the baby.
Absolutely, Mark. Thanks for having me on the show. It's wonderful. And keep doing what you're doing, buddy. Awesome stuff.
All right, thank you. And to the broadcast.